Anybody's on YouTube, we are doing the Rambam, chapter 29, in the laws of Shabbos today. And we will start in approximately 8 to 10 minutes. Thank you. Hello, Dennis. Hello, hello, Dennis. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you, Rabbi.
Do you see the text on the screen?
Yes.
Do?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, we still got 5 minutes, so I'll see you shortly.
Okay.
Hi all, hope everybody's well.
Hi, everyone.
Hi Jackie.
Hi. Nice to see you.
And you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
All right.
Where is everybody?
Hello, everybody.
Oh, okay.
Hi,
Seeing some-
Rabbi.
Hello.
Hi.
How is everybody?
All good. How are
the new
you?
week treating you? Baruch
Hello,
Hashem.
Rabbi.
We're surviving Monday.
Hi, Rabbi. Hi, everybody. Yes.
So, okay, people still coming on. Some reason, okay. Okay, we have a minion. It's a reform
Okay.
minion, but it's a minion.
Including Jackie.
Including me.
Jackie,
Right, well done.
Jackie seems to be
Progress at last.
not the only one.
But I'm far away.
Where are you?
I'm in Sydney in Australia.
Really?
Ah,
I have no
wonderful.
idea.
Yeah.
What's your surname?
You know me, Rabbi Klavansky.
Oh. Okay.
How did you get to Sydney in this pandemic?
Oh, it wasn't easy. We're in quarantine, actually.
Okay.
We got here
Oh, God.
a few days ago. It wasn't
Oh, my.
easy.
Oh. Now that's why you confused me. I thought you were living in Sydney.
No, I don't live there. I don't live here. My daughter lives here. We've come to be with my daughter.
Okay.
She's going to have a
okay.
baby, so that's why we're
Okay.
here.
Mazel tov, mazel
Yeah,
tov.
Tova.
Mazel
In
tov.
good- in
In
good
a
health.
while. Thank you.
Okay, everybody. And right, so you're not the only lady. Bern Dorfman, are you there? Is that you?
Yes. Hi,
Okay.
Rabbi. I'm here.
No. And where are you in Joburg?
No, in Cape Town.
Cape Town. Okay. Which part of Cape Town?
Pardon?
Which part of Cape Town?
Oh, Rondebosch.
Rondebosch. Okay. I have a son in Mowbray down the road.
Oh, yes, very close by, 5 minutes.
Rabbi Nissim Goldman, who runs Chabad on campus at UCT and the other universities, is my son.
Oh, wonderful.
And he lives
Wonderful.
right next to UCT.
Grown up. Finished with UCT already. I'm a bobber.
Okay. Okay, guys, let's get moving. We got 29 halachas to get through, which is quite a lot, but it's easy going today. We are thankfully over the difficult thou shalt nots, and now we're going to get to some of the thou shalts, the positive side of Shabbos. The Ten Commandments, which I'm doing tonight, I'm doing actually a series on the Ten Commandments for my shul, but everybody's welcome. 8 o'clock tonight. We've been doing it for some 5 weeks or more. And the fourth commandment is Shabbos. And in Exodus, the Ten Commandments says, Zachor, you should remember the Shabbos day. And in Deuteronomy, where it's repeated, it says Shamor, you should observe the Shabbos day. So Zachor is to remember the positive observance of Shabbos, and Shamor is to not to desecrate it with the negative. So today we're going to focus on the positive, Zachor, to remember Shabbos. How do we remember Shabbos? So if you look at number 1, it is a positive commandment of the Torah to sanctify the Shabbos day with a verbal declaration. Zachor et Yom HaShabbat l'kadsho, it says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. That's from the Ten Commandments, number 4. And this remembrance must be made at the Shabbos entrance and departure. So we do Kiddush when Shabbos comes in on Friday evening, and we do Havdalah, another blessing on a cup of wine, distinguishing between the 7th day, the holy day, and the other 6 mundane days of the week. That's called Havdalah, which we do on Saturday night. And here he gives us the text of Kiddush. Of course, we say Yom HaShishi, and then we say Borei Pri HaGofen, but the basic text of Kiddush is as he has it outlined here. And this is pretty much in keeping with what we do today, more or less identical to our customs today in most communities, almost all communities. There are some small variations here and there. So you see, he mentions the Zikaron L'Maseh Bereshit, that it is a remembrance and a reminder of the creation itself, of Genesis. And then he says also, Zeicher L'Tziat Mitzrayim, it is a reminder of the Exodus from Egypt. So just to share with you a little bit from the Ten Commandments shir I gave the other week, both are included in Shabbos. So Shabbos, we remember that God is the creator of heaven and earth. And we also remember that he is still actively involved in running the world. He didn't just create the world all those years ago, and now he's on holiday in Mauritius. No, he's still the active CEO of the world. He's the managing director. There is divine providence, and there is a vast eternal plan which he manages every nanosecond of life. So that is shown by the fact that he took us out of Egypt, which means that 2,500 years after creation, he was still active, making miracles to have the Jewish people redeemed and born as a nation at Mount Sinai 7 weeks later. And here we have the text of the Havdalah. Baruch atah Hashem, Hamavdul ben Kodesh l'chol, he who distinguishes between the holy and mundane. He gives a few examples of such distinctions: the holy and the mundane, light and darkness, Israel and the nations, and the 7th day and the other 7 ordinary days of the week. So let's hope that the Human Rights Commission doesn't ban Havdalah as racist. Halacha number 4. The essence of the mitzvah of sanctifying Shabbos is to do so at night, that is Friday night. However, if you didn't do it on Friday night, whether consciously or inadvertently, you can still do it the whole of Saturday. If you don't do Havdalah on Saturday night, you can still do it Sunday. You can still do it Monday until nightfall on Tuesday. How's that? But we'll soon learn that you're not supposed to eat before Havdalah. So I hope you don't want to fast for 3 days. And the blessing on the flame, which is one of those things that the other brachas that we do on Havdalah, we say a bracha on spices and a flame, which we'll discuss just now. The flame in particular is only on Saturday night. Number 5, as I said, it's forbidden to eat or drink wine from when Shabbos begins until one recites Kiddush. So if the man of the house is late coming home from shul and the family is home, they didn't go to shul, and they're hungry, I'm afraid you're going to have to wait patiently until Kiddush. Or if you can't wait, you have to make Kiddush yourself. Don't tell your husband, he might be faribel if he comes home and hears he didn't wait for him for Kiddush. But if you may not eat before Kiddush on Friday night, and you may not eat or drink or perform labor or taste anything until you recite Havdalah on Saturday night. Drinking water, just water, is permitted, and there are people who would not even drink water. Number 6, it's a mitzvah to recite Kiddush on what? On a cup of wine. And to recite Havdalah on a cup of wine. Now, many people use grape juice, right? It's permissible to use grape juice, but it's preferable to use wine. So if you have a health issue with alcohol, if you're a recovering alcoholic, please use grape juice. If your doctor said you're not to have any alcohol for other reasons, please use grape juice. But if you're a healthy person and you don't have an issue with alcohol, then please use wine. Practically speaking, today there are a number of wines available in the world, including South Africa, which are low alcohol wines, 5% alcohol. Usually it was like 11 or 12% or more. Now you can get low alcohol wines like it's called Rashi or Kedem. There's others that have 5% alcohol, and it's really doesn't affect you. But we use wine because we want to be a little bit affected. We want to be a little bit elevated and inspired and warmed, and be a little bit more passionate about Shabbos. So that's one of the reasons we actually use wine, to feel good. So wine is preferable to grape juice. Now, on Saturday night in Ma'ariv, in the evening service, in the Amidah, there is a paragraph called Ata Chonantanu, which is essentially a Havdalah prayer, which we insert into the evening service before Havdalah. Still, even if you said that, we still do the Havdalah over a cup of wine afterwards. Now, both in Havdalah and Kiddush, we say the bracha Borei Pri Hagofen first, and then we recite the special blessing of Kiddush, sanctifying the day. One should not wash one's hands, the vas for Hamotzi, for Challah, until after we say Kiddush. What is the procedure? Number 7. You should take a cup that contains at least a revi'at. How much is a revi'at? A revi'at is 86.6 milliliters minimum. Some say 90, some say 105. And believe it or not, 100 milliliters is a small becher. You don't have to have a huge goblet. I always tell people about this Pesach, they have the 4 cups. Rather take a small cup, also needs just a revi'at, the 86 or 90 mils, and you can have 4 cups of low alcohol wine at the Seder, and it won't make you shikr or drowsy or whatever. That's what I recommend for Pesach. Likewise for Kiddush, well, if you have an 11% alcohol, one cup on Kiddush is not going to send you over the edge. I don't think it would even send you over the limits of a breathalyzer if you happen to have it. But the minimum is 86 mils. You should wash the cup thoroughly inside and rinse it outside. It should be clean and sparkling when you make Kiddush. That's out of respect. You fill it with wine, you hold it in your right hand, lifting it above the ground more than a handbreadth, a fist, without supporting it with your left hand. You shouldn't hold it with both hands. You should hold it in your right hand. What if you're a lefty? Any lefties on this call?
No.
If you're a lefty, you hold it in your left hand.
Okay,
But
thanks.
right-handed people hold it in their right hand. And we say Borei Pri Hagofen, and then the Kiddush blessing. We say Vayechulu Yom Hashishi Vayechulu Hashemayim before. That is widespread throughout the world. Now, how much do you have to drink of the cup? You just take a sip and pass it down? No. You should drink at least a cheekful of wine. How much is a cheekful of wine? So it depends. Every person has a different size cheek. Some people have bigger jaws than others, right? And also it says you should drink at least 50% of the cup. But you want to pass around the wine to everybody who's around the table. Now, if you're concerned about hygiene, especially now in the age of COVID, you might want to pour it out from your cup into a glass for everybody else before you drink from the cup. But make sure you save 50% for yourself. You can always top it up. Excuse me. After Kiddush, you say Hamotzi, and you say on the challah, and you pass around that, and then you can have the meal. Number 8. Kiddush should be in the place where you eat. So you shouldn't make Kiddush in this house and then go next door to make Hamotzi. Where you're going to eat, that's where you should say Kiddush. But you may do it at different, you can change seats at the table or different parts of the room as long as you're in the same room. Now, one might ask, why is Kiddush recited in the synagogue? You know, the Chazan makes Kiddush on Friday night in shul. Because in the olden days, there would be visitors and the shul would have like a guest house with meals, and people who would eat and drink on the shul premises, and the Chazan was making Kiddush for them in shul. Today, we don't really have that too often. Sometimes there's a Friday night dinner at shul, but there we make Kiddush anyway. But the custom of the Chazan making Kiddush is still carried on. Now, did you know, what if you don't have wine? What do? You can't get wine for no money. You could say Kiddush on challah as well. You have the two challahs undercover, as always, and you would say the Kiddush, and if you look in most Sidurim, where it says Borei Priya Gofen, it also gives you another option, Hamotzi Lechem in Ha'aretz, because sometimes if you cannot drink wine or you don't have wine, you could say Kiddush on challah as well. Havdalah, on the other hand, may not be recited over bread, only wine. We'll soon see some other options besides wine for Havdalah. Now, let's say you were intending to recite Kiddush over wine, but you forgot, and you went and you vased. You washed your hands to say Hamotzi before you said Kiddush. So now you've already vased. You said Al Natilat Yadayim. What must you do? So then you have to say Kiddush over the bread. Now, likewise, on Shabbos day, we also say Kiddush, but we don't make a whole fuss of it. It's a very short Kiddush. In fact, the basic essential Kiddush is just Borei Priya Gofen. But we do have a couple of paragraphs that we say before it. It's called the Great Kiddush, which is a little bit of a euphemism because it's almost said in a sense like satirically, because it's a very short Kiddush. It's just Hagofen. But not to embarrass it, we call it the Great Kiddush. And there too, one should not eat on Shabbos day before reciting Kiddush. So if you go to the bracha, please God, one day shuls will have brachas again. Say Amen, everybody. Please God, soon we'll be able to have a bracha in shul again.
Amen.
Right.
I lost 10 kilos in lockdown. Did I tell you? The main reason I worked out is because there was no bracha. Now, so you may not eat at the bracha before you hear Kiddush. You may not eat at home before you make Kiddush. You may, if you have a whiskey club in shul, one of those clandestine, illegal whiskey clubs that people go out during the Haftarah, which not the nicest thing to do, but people do it, and rabbis turn blind eyes to certain things. You have to make kiddush there as well before you eat or drink anything else. Number 11. You may recite kiddush before sunset, even though Shabbos has not begun. There is a limit. You can't do it before a certain time. You can't do it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And the time changes. So in the summertime, it's approximately 5:30, I think, is the earliest. I'd have to look it up. But it doesn't have to be after dark. It can be earlier. You may bring Shabbos in earlier, so you may make Kiddush earlier. Number 12. Okay, let's say you're eating a meal on Friday, which really you're not supposed to eat a big meal on Friday afternoon because you want to eat the Shabbos meal with a good appetite. But let's say you're in the middle of eating a meal on Friday. Maybe it was Yontif, and you're eating the Yontif meal, and it stretches. You have a lot of guests, and they're talking, and this one is saying Torah, and this one's telling stories, and this one is whatever. And suddenly you turn around and Gibakuk, it's already Shabbos is coming in, and you're still at the Yontif table. So there's something called Peiris Mapa Umakadesh. You spread a cloth over the table, you cover the food, you recite Kiddush for Shabbos, then you go back to the meal and you bench. You've probably never seen that or never done that. I've seen it once or twice in my life. It's an exceptional circumstance. If you're middle of eating on Shabbos afternoon, late afternoon, and you're still eating and Shabbos is now out, so what do? So you wash your hands. That's mayim achronim, the little wash of the hands and the mouth, the lips, before we bench. You say you bench on a cup of wine. You hold a cup of wine when you leave the benching, the leader. Then you daven ma'ariv, and then you make havdalah on this same cup that you benched on. 13. If you're eating and you completed the meal at the commencement of Shabbos, you should bench first and only then recite Kiddush. You should not bench and make Kiddush on the same cup. We just said you could bench and make Havdalah on the same cup of wine, but you should not bench and make Kiddush on the same cup of wine, because Kiddush is a biblical commandment, as is benching. Both benching and Kiddush, benching on a full meal with bread is a biblical commandment. If you eat and you're satisfied, you should bless Hashem. So it's a biblical commandment to bench, and it's a biblical commandment to remember Shabbos with a cup of wine. So each one of the biblical commandments should have their own cup of wine. 14. Kiddush may be recited only on wine that is fit to be offered as a libation on the altar. That means proper wine, not mixed with honey or yeast or other stuff. We don't really do this today, but in the olden days, they would have different kinds of mixtures of wine, which not all were acceptable for Kiddush. This is the ruling, says the Rambam, that we follow universally in the West. Where did the Rambam live? Not in the East. Well, actually, he did live in the East. But what he means is, he means in Israel or in the Arab lands where the Rambam lived. This is what the custom was. There are different customs, but we don't really have this issue today. But basically it means that the wine should be, it should not be wine with an unpleasant fragrance or wine that was cooked. Today we have mevushal wine, which has been cooked. And he says you should not use cooked wine for Kiddush. Today we do use mevushal wine because then it can be handled by non-Jews. You have non-Jewish waiters at a Jewish function. They can open the wine and cork it and uncork it and pour the wine for the guests if it's mevushal. And there are some people today who actually are strict and they will not use mevushal wine for kiddush, but most halachic authorities permit it. But 15, wine that tastes like vinegar, if it's off, should not be used for kiddush. Let's move to 16. If you drink from a vessel containing wine, even if you drink only a small amount, you have blemished the wine and invalidated it. What does that mean? Let's say I have a big cup of wine. It's a massive cup, like these big goblets you get at the Seder, for the cup of the Eliyahu. I have one of those. Someone gave me a gift, a beautiful silver goblet for a cup of the Eliyahu at the Seder. It must have 5, 6 reviuses, a few hundred milliliters of wine in there. Once you sip from that, someone else may not make kiddush on it. You would have to top it up with fresh wine. That's what he means. It's like leftovers. Even if you just took a sip, it's still considered leftovers, so it's not respectable. 17, if it resembles vinegar, but it still tastes like wine, then it's okay. What about raisin wine? What are raisins? Where do raisins come from? They come from grapes, right?
Yep.
So raisin wine, have you ever seen raisin wine? I've seen raisin wine in America. So you may recite kiddush over raisin wine, provided that the raisins are not completely dried out. That they would, if you press them, they would release some syrup. Similarly, a person may recite kiddush over wine fresh from the wine press, which is basically grape juice. It hasn't fermented. You could squeeze a cluster of grapes and recite kiddush over it. That's grape juice. Now, here's an interesting one about beer. Can you make kiddush on beer? The answer is no. But the good news is, if you don't have wine or grape juice, you could make havdalah on beer. I have seen people make havdalah on beer. And particularly, if it is in a country which uses beer where beer is very widespread and popular, then beer becomes like the wine of that country. Would you say South Africa qualifies for that title?
I think so, Rabbi.
Yes,
Yes, Rabbi, yes.
I think so.
I'm looking to get a huge consensus on this one, that South
Yeah.
Africa is a big beer drinking country. Would you not say so?
Yeah.
And
It is.
Australia and Germany,
100%, Rabbi.
right?
Germany, yeah.
So these are big
Bavaria.
beer drinking countries. So wine is still preferable for Havdalah, and you may not use beer for Kiddush. But for Havdalah, if you don't have wine, you may use beer. Believe it or not, if you don't have wine or grape juice or beer, what else could you make Havdalah on? So some people argue that you could use appetizer. That in South Africa, appetizer is like the local drink, like a very fine, respectable beverage. Some people hold you could even make Havdalah on a cup of tea if you don't have any of the ideal beverages. But wine is still preferable. I must tell you a story. We just commemorated a few days ago, Rosh Chodesh Kislev was the anniversary when the Lubavitcher Rebbe, of blessed memory, recovered from a heart attack. He had a very, very heavy heart attack on Shmini Atzeres 1978 during the Hakofas in Shul. And he walked upstairs to his room, and we still make Kiddush and eat in the Sukkah on Shmini Atzeret. And he insisted on making Kiddush in the Sukkah. He just had a massive heart attack. And he was in such control that he insisted on making Kiddush and eating in the Sukkah. And they gave him grape juice, and he says, no, Kiddush, you need wine. He just had a massive heart attack, and he insisted on drinking wine in the Sukkah. Anyway, the doctors came, and thank God, some weeks later, on Rosh Chodesh Kislev, he was able to go home, and it was a big yontif. So I'm just showing you how strict he was, even after a massive heart attack, that a dafka had to be wine. He wouldn't even take grape juice, even though grape juice is acceptable. 18. We also make Kiddush on Yontif, not just on Shabbos. And we recite Havdalah after Yontif. We recite Havdalah from Yontif going into Chol HaMoed, and from Shabbos going into Yontif, but not from a Yontif going into Shabbos. There we would not say Havdalah. 19 is the text of Kiddush on Yontif, and here he speaks about Asher Bocha Bonu Mikol that Hashem, who has chosen us from the nations to be his messengers and to be a light unto the nations. Chosen for responsibility, guys, not for privilege. We have a job to do to make the world a more godly place. So it's interesting. On Shabbos, we don't speak about God choosing us, but on Yontif we do, because when did God choose us? When he took us out of Egypt and gave us the Torah at Mount Sinai. So that's Pesach and Shavuos. So the Yom Tovim, more than Shabbos, reflect the historical moments when God chose us. So therefore we speak about this in Yontif, not so much on Shabbos. When Shabbos falls on Yontif, or Yontif falls on Shabbos, we add a few brackets, including Shabbos as well. So we would end the bracha
Breaking up, Rabbi.
Yeah, you're breaking up. Can't hear properly. Something wrong.
Can't hear you, Rabbi.
You are muted and frozen.
It was breaking up.
Yeah, I think he's got a problem with internet. Rabbi, maybe turn off your video.
Can't see him now at all.
Unmute. Okay, I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, now we can be back.
Perfect.
Okay, but now we've lost the text.
Can hear you and see you.
So let's find the text. Oh, got it.
There we go.
Okay, so we're on Kiddush for Rosh Hashanah. We have here Zichron Trua. We speak about the shofar, and there's a different wording. So the Kiddush for Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot is the same. Of course, you say whatever Yontif it is, but the Kiddush for Rosh Hashanah is different. What about the Kiddush for Yom Kippur? That was a joke. There's no Kiddush on Yom Kippur. We don't eat on Yom Kippur. Okay, I just want to see if you guys are awake. Okay, number 20. So we end off Baruch Atah Hashem on Rosh Hashanah. Melech al kol haaretz mekadesh Yisrael v'yom hazikaron, the day of remembrance. If it falls on Shabbos, then we mention Shabbos as well. Likewise, on the day of Kiddush, during the day, we also recite Kiddush, this short Kiddush, like we do on Shabbos day, just a different line. 22. Okay, now, Saturday night. If Yontif is Saturday night and Sunday, or Yontif is Sunday, and you're going from Shabbos to Sunday. So Saturday night you have to make Havdalah for Shabbos, and you have to make Kiddush for Yontif, right? So this is the longest Kiddush of the year. It's called Yak Nahaz. We do Yayin, wine, Kiddush, Ner, the blessing on the fire, Havdalah, and Zman, which is Shehechiyonu. We say Shehechiyonu on all Yom Tovim. We'll soon learn about that. So you say Boret number 22, you say Hagofen, then Kiddush, then the blessing over fire, then the blessing of Havdalah, and then Shehechiyonu. So it's a long Kiddush. You really need to follow the Siddur carefully. 23, we always say Shehechiyonu on Yontif. Even the second day of Yontif, we still say Shehechiyonu. There's one exception in the year of a Yontif when we do not say Shehechiyonu, the 7th day of Pesach. Okay, you have the first 2 days of Pesach, then you have Chol HaMoed, the intermediate days, and then you have the last 2 days of Pesach, the 7th and 8th day of Pesach. It's called the 7th day of Pesach. It is not a new Yontif. Shmini Atzeret, which comes after the week of Sukkot, is strictly speaking a Yontif in its own right. So we say Shehechiyonu again. But Pesach, the 2nd days of Pesach of Yontif, is called the Shvi'i Shel Pesach and Achron Shel Pesach, the 7th and last days of Pesach. So it's a continuation of Pesach. We already said Shehechiyonu on the first days of Pesach. Therefore, we do not say Shehechiyonu again at the end. 24, what is the order of Havdalah? We say Hagofen, then we say the bracha on spices, besamim, then we say the bracha on a candle, a special Havdalah candle that has at least 2 wicks to it, minimum, and then we say the bracha Havdalah. That's Havdalah. 25, to say the bracha on the flame, you have to derive some benefit. What's the minimum definition of benefit? It doesn't have to light up the whole house, but it has to be light enough that you could tell the difference between 2 coins of different countries. So let's say I have a $50 from America, which is, no, that's not good. That's not a good example. Let's say I have a quarter of United States currency, a 25-cent piece, which is very similar in size and both round to a 5 rand coin in South Africa. Mm-hmm. So I have 2 coins that are both round and the same size. In order to see which is which, I have to have enough light to distinguish between the 2. That's the minimum light you need from the fire to say the bracha borei ma'orei ha'esh. And what do people do? They don't hold coins, but they hold up their fingers to the flame. And if you see the light in your fingernails, that is sufficient. Now he says you should not use a flame from non-Jews, because non-Jews may have used that flame for idolatrous purposes for their faiths, which would invalidate the use for our faith. Let's quickly move. You could use flames. If you don't have a Havdalah candle, you could use fires from a furnace or an oven. It's not ideal. If the coals are glowing, to an extent, you could use it. Lights in the house of study or lights in the house of prayer.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
I just want to ask a question. I'm almost at the end of my conversion. So I just want to find out then, would I be allowed to hold the Havdalah candle, or must my husband rather hold it, being Jewish? Must I rather let him hold it?
I don't see a problem with you holding it.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're on, so the bottom of 26, the most choice way is to use a torch. So the Havdalah candles that you get now, they have many, many wicks. Let's say you don't have that. You could take 2 candles and put the 2 wicks together as a minimum, or even 2 matches together, but it has to be more than 1 wick. 27, if a fire was kindled for a sick person on Shabbos, you could use that. You could use fire produced from wood or stone. You know, in the olden days, you'd scrape 2 stones together and get fire. In fact, tradition has it that that's how Adam, the first man in history, on Saturday night. Why do we make a bracha on fire? Because Saturday night is the anniversary of fire. Adam, when the whole Shabbos was light, The first time he experienced darkness was Saturday night after Shabbos. He took 2 stones or 2 pieces of wood and rubbed them together vigorously, and he created a flame. So that's why we do a bracha on the flame on Saturday night. However, Yom Kippur, we also say the bracha on a fire, but it has to be a fire that rested the whole Yom Kippur. It was lit before Yom Kippur and was on a light the whole Yom Kippur, and you're using it after Yom Kippur, or you took a light from that flame. So most people, in all shuls, you have people kindle yard-side candles for Yom Kippur at shul and at home, different customs. So if you take a Havdalah candle from there, it's kosher. 28, if the Yom Tov falls in the middle of the week, you just say Havdalah. You don't do like on Shabbos. So Saturday night after Shabbos, you have besamim, spices, and the fire. But after Yom Tov, if it's during the week, you only have wine. You don't need spices and you don't need fire. Same text. Why, 29, why is the blessing recited over spices on Saturday night? Because the soul is forlorn by reason of the departure of Shabbos. Therefore, we gladden it and settle it with a pleasant fragrance. It says that every Shabbos, God gives us an extra dimension of soul. Neshama Yeseda, an extra dimension of spirituality comes into us every Shabbos. When Shabbos is out, it leaves us. So if you lose your spirit, you're a bit faint. How do you revive a person if they're faint? You give them smelling salts, right? Or spices. So likewise, we have spices at the end of Shabbos to revive our sagging spirits, that the extra dimension of soul, of spirit of Shabbos has left us. That's why we have the spices. We have finished. Any questions? Don't all shout at once. Okay, that was a relatively easy chapter, much easier than the last few I've done on Shabbos. And I think somewhat more enjoyable because it was on the positive side rather than the negative. Okay, so it's only Monday, but I'll wish you a good Shabbos, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Bye.
Very
Bye,
interesting.
Tov.
All the
Thank you,
best.
Rabbi.
My pleasure.
Tov.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
You too.
It was wonderful.
And